Good morning, good morning, good morning. 1 second. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm almost tempted to just replay Crime Scene Cleaner. Maybe I pretend that I never played it before and we play it again. Because Crime Scene Cleaner was so nice with its little cleaning. It was the ideal game, and I hate that it was so ideal. Oh, the music's loud? Oh, we can turn it down this time, I suppose. How's that? Good? GG, Sinful. This is called Peaceful Day from Lo-Fi Girl. If you'd like to listen to the music, just look up Lo-Fi Girl. It's what I listen to almost every day in our stream because it is just chill enough that it is, enjoyable to listen, but it's royalty free and it's very nice. I just wish they'd make another Crime Scene Cleaner. I wish they'd make another Crime Scene Cleaner. It would make my life so much better. Anyways, good morning, lovelies. It's funny, I was talking to my friend the other day who I was giving some coaching advice to, and I was explaining to her, how I do, whatchamacallit, my brain is gone. Oh, I do my ASMR. And she was like, yeah, I'm not able to maintain some of the viewership and stuff, and I feel like I need to change the way I do ASMR. I'm like, oh, so are you talking softly, getting close to the mic? She's like, oh no, I'm just doing normal talking. I'm like, girl, I didn't say just talk normal. I said make sure it's still nice and relaxing. I'm like, no wonder people aren't sticking around from ASMR. Anyways, hello, little alien. We're gonna go through all of our little check-ins here. We're gonna start with congratulating those who have hit for second and third. So congratulations, Silverfang. Congratulations on first. Congratulations, Wolfos, for second. Good morning, Wolfos. And congratulations, Sleepy Sunny, for third. Now all of our check-ins. Good morning, Cowbob and Silverfang. Good morning, Necro. And Karamia. Good morning, Moss and Wolfos. Good morning, King Cody and Spooky Nemi. Good morning, Asher and Amelia Platter. Good morning, Sunshine and Elliptical Panda. Good morning, Amy and Sakona. Good morning, Clyde and Delissima and Rookie's Rebellion. Good morning, Mazaki and Stellar Jazzy and Ava. Good morning, Tasha and Meow Kitty Cat and Stardoxus. Good morning, Sleepy Sunny Puppy. Good morning, Moo Moo. Good morning, Cheeky Nina and Bandragon and Maywerda. Good morning, Kira and Snumby. It's been a little while, Snumby. How you doing? Good morning, Vea's Vlog and Eli and Lily Smoke Paradise. Good morning, Sinful Microwave and Chicken Witch and Rexel. Good morning, Allah and Julia and Ocean. Good morning, Lala, the little alien. How's your music going? Is your band doing alright? You need to be sleeping. Get some sleep. Good morning, Lunar and Aria and Momomia. Good morning, Washi and Nixie and Evie. Good morning, Nimbus. Thank you for the headbands. Good morning, Gibbets, Kitty and Goth, and Solian, and Sakuna. Good morning, SKC fan. 1 second, I need to put a blink. And good morning, Shiny, whatever. I put a blanket around my shoulders. I'm very cold. I believe in you, little alien. You got this. One second while I grab something. And we're back. Also, good morning, Arya. I've decided that I'm going to start doing a thing. So you know how I say hello to everybody in the morning at the beginning of stream? I'm going to start in the middle of the stream saying hello to everybody who checked in after that so that people are encouraged to check in. So, yes. But I will be doing that in like the evening stream. In the middle of stream, we'll be stopping to say hello to everybody else who checked in late. Alright. Good. But yes, I slept okay. Not enough, but definitely okay. Now, where were we? Okay. Crime scene cleaner. You know what? Why not? It's been a while. Let's see if it launches. It launched. Awesome. Good night, Ocean. You sleep well. You'll know pretty quickly if you can get more dopamine from it. Right. Oh, this is annoying. A little while ago, a company reached out to me and said, hey, we have an affiliation proposal for you. And I looked at them and they seemed kind of interesting, but they're for a service that reduces your ping, right? By using some sort of virtual thing. And, thank you for the hydrate. And I reached out to them being like, look, I get it. It seems like a good product, but I don't play multiplayer games. So I have zero benefit, and I can't even prove to anybody whether it works or not. So I wouldn't be the kind of person to push this, but if you want me to, like, send you some people who would be better for this, I'll totally do that. They completely ignored me. They 100% ignored me. Which is kind of frustrating, you know? To be like, hey, we'd like you to partner with us. Cool. I don't think I'd be a good fit for you, but like, do you want me to help you out? Hey, do you want to partner with us? No. I definitely don't want to now if you're not going to be reading the email that I just sent you. Anyways, we're going to check on the form real quick. Give me a second. Let's see how we've done. Well, 68 responses. If you haven't filled out your homework yet, that is okay. But that is how you are earning your star stickers. So 2 more and we'll get another star sticker. Here is the homework. Bloop. I'm gonna pin it. And there we go. Oh, nice. Oh, they'll get me a base too. I need to get a new one. Alright, it's time. Hopefully we can get more dopamine out of this game. Here we go. All right. Thank you for the check-in, Nelia. Good morning, Kakashi's wife, Sarah. How are you doing? The Ren? No, it's a green screen. Okay, where was I? Crime Cleaner. We're gonna do a new game, completely from the beginning. Which one, Jazzy? Happy Friday, y'all. No, yes, every Friday.
Mr. Kowalski, I fucked up.
All right, here we go. I'm excited for this. Come on, dopamine, you can do it. I believe in you. Come on, dopamine, show yourself. Let's see if it's gonna come back. What do you think? Perfect. It won't change the way I clean these places. Thank you for the hydrate. You know what they say, hydrate or die straight. There it is. Come on. Yes. Yay. I think there's dopamine. I think there's dopamine. cleans. Look at the partial cleaning on the footsteps. And look at this. You see, you swap to the sponge to clean the countertop so that you don't knock over everything because it's smaller. So it makes sense. And look at this mess. And then there's more. And the body. What's the question? Is it okay to help motivate me to hydrate more? I mean, I can help you right now. Mizaki. Sweetie. You need to be drinking your water. You need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Your body is made of water. It relies on that for every little thing. And if you aren't taking care of yourself, well, it's just like saying you don't care about me. You need to take care of yourself. Please. Yay. This game's so perfect. It's like even the water bucket. I love the water bucket. The water bucket is fantastic. Because when you're trying to like move around, if you don't do it right, you knock it over, you make a bigger mess, and then like you do this, in the footsteps, you make more footsteps. It's like, oh no, now I got more mess to clean. And as you move on, you can upgrade the mop to make it last longer, because it gets so annoying how quickly dirty it gets. Yes. Gonna put you here for now. Hey. Pull that way. Stop falling that way. There we go. I think the chairs went here. Oh wait, do we start with detergent? We do start with detergent. Yes. I can't believe you're late. Right, this is just so much. And the reason why I like this a lot is because you're not just cleaning a crime scene, you're covering up a crime. You're covering up the crime. So like there's a reason why you need to do things so well. And you need to collect evidence. Thank you for the hydrate. Hydrate or die straight. And we most certainly ain't straight. Thank you for the hat pets. If somebody would remake this game, just give me more things to do, I would love you forever. That's all I need. I just need more of this game. You know what this game is like to me? Anybody here watch Game Grumps? Game Grumps specifically had their thing. They had Kirby's Golf, right? Kirby Golf. And I loved the Kirby Golf episodes. This would be my Kirby Golf. If somebody would make a remake of this game or make their own one, where people could add their own levels, it would be literally the greatest thing in my entire life. Any updates? There's no updates for this game. This is it. This is all the game has. It's just one game with its 11 levels and nothing else. And I am so bummed. But there's 100 different cleaning games, but none of them hit like this. Cause like even when we were playing the game yesterday, which maybe the new one is better. Maybe the new one's better. But the oh, actually let's clean up all the things first. House Flipper, yes, when we were playing House Flipper, like there would be dirt on the wall, but you'd clean like the very specific patch of dirt, like that was up by the roof every time, and it's always the same dirt, and you just do it a certain amount of times. And there's so many games, like, I mean, Goblin Cleaner, I was hoping so badly that it'd be good, but it just doesn't work for me. That's what I worry about any other game, Kaiju Cleaner or anything else. Maybe it just didn't do well. I mean, you can definitely tell this was an amateur project. And here's what I'll show you like how it's such an amateur project. You ready? So first off, over time you can level up. Oh, it doesn't look like I have it yet. When I can level up, I'll show you. I could do cleaning like this, 100%. So what you do is you go in and you throw out everything that's dirty. So I'd go in and throw out all the plates and the pans and the pots. Just chuck it all out the window, stack it all up outside. When it's all outside, I'll take all of it to the dumpster in massive bags. And I'll go through and clean it with deep clean, with like a broom or a brush, with little consideration of what I knock over. And then, well, you know how do we do it. All I'd need to do is just clean deeply. Not only is this relaxing though, like it hits every single need of mine. So many of them. Because there's a progression system with the upgrading of the things. Clean deeply, yes, clean deeply. Good morning, welcome, Cart. How are you doing today? I could talk about this game all day, honestly. All the things it does right, which does plenty wrong, don't get me wrong. I will not ignore its flaws. You can tell it was made by an amateur dev, but it thought about so many little things. Well, thank you. I know I still need some work on it, but we're trying. It was made with love and care. Or at least an understanding that a lot of these games don't seem to have. There's Michael Innocence. I would love if you would do some research on games like this. But I can show you exactly like where most of these games fall flat. See, to start with, you see that we have all the blood on the floor. It's at different densities, which is lovely. Absolutely lovely. And so, when you clean with the mop, first off you have different tools for different areas. A quick clean here will get all that blood up in an instant. But I do it over here, and it takes a little bit longer. Well, I'm using detergent, but you see it's a smaller spot. It also cleans only where I'm really washing, which is, well, what I'm looking for. And then if I swap to this, you see, if I wash here, it's not knocking any of that down. If I use the mop, it actually pushes all the objects around, so it has unique objects for each situation. Another thing that I enjoy, I have to use a bucket once this gets full of too much blood. It no longer picks up and won't clean anymore. So I have to go back to here and clean it out, giving you this mechanic. And as you increase and you grow, you get bigger buckets, as well as different mops and things. Eve the Fauna, welcome to the menagerie. I'm one hell of a butler. And now, all the little trash bits as well. You know how I mentioned earlier the trash? Well, swapping to a garbage can, picking up the trash. And then once the trash is over full, which I only learned how to do this at the very end of last pickup scene. Pull out the bag, and now I have to carry the bag around. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. And now I can stop the voice back to normal. Am I going to be live? For an hour and a half about. Hour and 20 minutes. I'll slowly work on getting my Sebastian down. Oh, and this. The fact that the furniture is free moving, I like that a lot. But also that there's a place to put it, so you have this clean kind of ease to it, you know. It's just flawless. Well, it's not flawless. That's a lie. I've already said that it has many flaws. You'll scream and cry. Oh, Chad, I can't learn how to do Sebastian, because Lala might scream and cry. Who wouldn't want that? Trust me, darling, Not you calling me Fork. By the way, lovelies, if you've never heard Lala sing, they can do straight up opera. It's insane, so you should check them out. One day me and them are going to do a cover, but I need to actually get better at covers first. Weed. Gene is fork, life is soup. Gene is fork, life is soup. Lloyd is water, water is good. Lloyd is water, water is good. Lloyd is water, water is good. Oh, you do, definitely. Hi, chat. Lovely voidlings. This is going to be my random thing I'm going to say right now. Then I don't know if it's ever going to be true. Thank you, Sarah. I wish I could. But there is a overcoming aggression. There is a webcomic that I love called The Greatest Estate Developer. It does not have an anime. It should have an anime. If ever it gets an anime, this is me putting in the world, I'm going to voice Lloyd. I'm going to figure out how to voice Lloyd, and I'm going to voice Lloyd. That's all I want to do. Lloyd is the main character. I love Lloyd. Lloyd is the main character of The Greatest Estate Developer. And he is scummy, but in the best way possible. And here's what I mean by that. It's in Isekai. He was working in construction. I think he'd studied as like a civil engineer. He's working in construction and comes to the world of the book he was reading, this web novel. And in it, there is this thank you, Sarah. And in it, he takes over the body of this good-for-nothing son, Lloyd. And Lloyd is supposed to die really early on because of, like, debts of the family. Well, or, like, stuff's supposed to go down. And it's supposed to drive the main plot. He obviously doesn't want to die. And so he figures he's going to do stuff so that he can live life easy because he doesn't want to work. He just wants to chill. And he does all this stuff that benefits other people in a way that feels scummy, that he's taking advantage of people, but he's really not. Just so that he can try to live an easy life. Lloyd. No, I named you. L-L-O-Y-D. You ruined my life. How could I ruin your life? I wasn't even there. But yes. L-L-O-Y-D. These windows open. I have no clue I'd want to be Javier. Honestly, so Javier is beautiful. I think, who voiced Legoshi? Or Legoshi? Oh, definitely, you should read it. You can find it on, it's like just reading on Azura. Yeah, Jonah Scott. I think Jonah Scott should be, him. Well, you can read a webtoon. Or if you want to read the full thing right now for free. Chat, I didn't send you this. I did not send you this. I did not send you this. I did not send you this. Okay? We're on the same page. There you go. This has some of the best translations. Like, it actually localizes. Unlike some of them where they're just like, I don't know, I don't like a lot of the comic dub ones. This is one of the few places where I actually really enjoyed the how they wrote it. Right. You did not. LLOYD. Oh, you did now? Nice. Don't underestimate dad's strength. Interesting. Where am I? Hidden apartment. Ooh. I don't know this is required trash, but you know. And not only does this game, like, it considers the fact that you're carrying around all this crime scene trash. So, you know, you have to take it to, like, the right place. You have to actually put it in your car and take it with you. I like that a lot. Because so many games would just be like, you fill out the trash, you're done. This gives you more. Well, I like that it not only applies logic, it does so in a satisfying way, with like the way the bloodstains are cleaned up. Because I was playing Goblin Cleaner, and Goblin Cleaner didn't do that. Thank you for the hydrate. Thank you for the follow, Half Moon Mike. Welcome to the menagerie. Like Goblin Cleaner, for instance, you'd have a splatter on the ground. And it'd be multiple splatters of like the exact same kind of thing, okay? Like they'd all be shaped the same, and you'd wash it, you'd rub it like 3 or 4 times, and then it would vanish. Well, here there's a massive splatter across the ground, and you clean up parts of it. So you have this direct, like, impact on the world. More so than Goblin Cleaner did. It felt more like it was Goblin Cleaner was just giving me things to do. Like it was a cleaner name only. If it could have me go around and just press buttons, press the button here, walk, press the button there, walk, then it'd be fine. But this one, it feels like cleaning is the entire purpose, not just making a cool looking level. Yes. And yeah, just the additional level of also like the fact that I'm covering up a crime is nice. And we have a moral reason. We're trying to help our sick daughter. So like adding this like additional reason of like I don't really want to be here cleaning up crimes. And I'm a little bit worried that the guy who I'm cleaning up crimes for is gonna make me be cleaned up one day. But it's just like satisfying. And so we're covering up evidence, and so it makes me want to even try harder. Oh, I'm sorry, Count Bomb. It was me, I was the dog. How do I feel about puzzle games? I like puzzle games to an extent. Depends on the puzzle game. No, we're cleaning up to pay for our medical bills for our daughter. That would be kind of cool, though. That would be kind of cool if this was like... if our daughter was secretly a murderer. That's a lot of weed. Your turn to die? What's that? No. We only clean up after the crime. Come on, Gully Bop. Hello, Marexel. Marexel. Time it breaks the crappy paintings. Do you not like Danganronpa? Danger Pom Pom? House of Da Vinci. Kind of mafia. Not really mafia, but definitely a crime guy. Big crime boy. Da Vinci? I've considered playing Sally Face. It's on my list. My ever-increasing, never-shrinking list. You just call yourself a freak? That's crazy. Oh, this game is actually better now than it was when I first played it. Because there's ways to collect multiple pieces of trash. But see, it doesn't do the thing where it makes it like you overdo it. Alright, let me know when you're done from school. Right, but do you want to play? There's this game, the one where you play the little girl who's going around talking to the narrator the entire time. Misfortune. Little Misfortune, that's one. Sally Face really isn't a horror. I mean, maybe it's a horror. It feels more like a gothic kind of thing. That's fair. Well, I mean, we could do it for a Saturday. Saturday is horror day. Oh, I've played Stanley Parable. I love Stanley Parable. Haven't finished the second one yet. I need to. Was it Sally Face or Fran Bow that you said to do? Lala. By the way, I'll play it both. Which game was it that you said I should play? I'll do Sally first. Mori was okay. Moria was a very slow build. I wasn't ready for a slow build. Maybe we'll do Sally face on Saturday night. Boah. Poor me, Gibbets. Guess Saturday night is horror night. Oh, yeah, I guess some people have issues with it, but, yeah, I've talked to a lot of crime scene cleaners and just like, yeah, it's whatever. I mean, I guess it's more of seeing a dead body repeatedly. Though I will say, there is one job that has the highest amount of violent crimes associated with it. And that's working at a meat processing plant. Stellar, I go to work after this. I've already slept. Yeah, sure. I wake up before work and I stream. Yeah. If I could listen to one song for the rest of my life, could it only be that song? If I choose a song, it can only be that song. Ooh, none. Silence. It would destroy my brain to only be able to listen to one song. It would have to be something background noise. But eventually, any song would start grating at me. And it would just, having an experience with it wouldn't be like overstimulating. Yes, thing. That's why I like working at a meat processing plant. You're the one killing a thing. I think that is why it's so much different than like working with a crime scene or something, or cleaning. Alright, I need to get over there. Can I? Here we go. Yes, I can call you Puddin'. Puddin'. Can I? Alright, there's a way to get over there. I know there is. Gotta be. I could just unhook from this. They're clever. You see, there's the problem is. It's gotta be a way to get over there. Thank you for the follow, mermaids. How do I? Got it. You wreck nerd. Figured you out. secret. I never found this last time. I knew I was missing something. I was here last time. Secret. Roses are red, just like my blood. How I'm clean and sober, my dad's still on. Can't count of him or anyone else. No one ever gets me like my dead girls do. Jesus. They were the Hydra. Schmervert Schleid. It's true. Well, I suppose I can do this one for you. Kind of love this. Imagine having like a little setup like this. On one of these, you can just go up in the air. Has pillows, you just lay down here and be like, yep, I'm going up now. Ah, so nice in the sky. But I know these things shake like crazy, so it'd probably be actually terrifying. But still, I do enjoy it. Potato. You have no potatoes now, they are mine. I'm also cleaning up your pizza. If you don't want the pizza to go to rot. Yummy dead guy pizza. My favorite thing is dead guy pizza. We are missing a single piece of furniture. What do you think furniture I've forgotten to move is? Or is it going to be a little dumb today? Oh no, I forgot to put the bong back in its place. Where is it? There it is. Thank you for the stretch. Alright. Very nice and clean. Ain't nobody dope like me. I am so fresh and clean. Ain't nobody dope like me. I am so fresh. Think I'm so sexy. I'm so fresh and so clean. Spoop. Vertical rotierende fish. Yeah, of course I have seen that. Sorry, I forgot I was supposed to be doing the voice. Vertical rotierende the fish. Wait, where's the other party? That is Sjörg. Dodged. Guten Morgen, mein Lieber, wie geht's? Alles gut mit dir? Tja. Well, that was unfortunate. Thank you for that, Pats. Alright, I got this chat. You ready? Up wir go. Und Kobe. Oh, I'm going to try this again. Zevio. That's a dead body. What am I going to do? Care about them? The body's empty. There's nothing left in that body but memories. Not even those. Anyways. I'm too strong. And then if I missed. And that's a similar view I have. Got it. Similar view actual bodies. I mean, the respect is to our bodies only for those who are still alive. The body's gone. The body's empty. Whether there was a soul in there or not. What is left behind is just flesh. Thank you for the hydrate. They're talking about the dead body. Not me, Katamia. And that's the thing you have to think about. The point of a funeral is not for those who, not for the one who has died, but for those going to the funeral. Whenever I think about funerals, though, I always remember my father having told me how he wants to be dealt with. He would like, so his first thing was he wanted to be put into a vial, and be cremated and put into a vial, and then inserted into the neck of a guitar. Then he wanted to be compressed into a jewel. But I think he found out that sometimes they don't know whose ashes are actually going into the jewel. And he always made a joke being like, yeah, but you're only going to be half paying attention, so you're going to be like, yeah, my dad said put him in a guitar or whatever, so now there's a corpse in a guitar case in my closet. Bye, murmurs. Sleep well. What are you sorry about? That is hilarious. You're good. I wouldn't say it at all if I had an issue with it. Okay, I feel like there was a secret I'm missing somewhere. Wait a second. Nothing here. Have you been in there? Secrets nearby. Andrew Strong. I think that it was the, how are my secrets nearby? Found it! Wait. That's valid. Secret tunnel. Secret tunnel. and secret tunnel. Yay. I knew this game had more for me. Verticalis secret tunnel. I just gotta dispose of things. Nope. There we are. I think we have everything. You ready? I don't know what made you feel emotions, but I hope you feel better, Sunstar. Zaki, you've done nothing negative. You're totally fine. And if you do anything that bothers me, I will let you know. Too early for philosophy? It's never too early for philosophy. Yay. Oh, y'all, I think I'm sick, by the way, so if I seem really out of it one of these streams, you know why. Okay, here's where the flaws in this game are. You ready? First off, do you hear that little noise in the background that sounds like a can moving? There's a glitched can. And that bothers me. I think they actually changed some things here. Wow, maybe they watched me play it. So there's one area I could have sworn where they didn't change anything. Huh, interesting. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna mute this part. You can probably definitely be pressed into a flower. I think the first thing I want to do is get the pressure washer. Yeah, let's get the pressure washer. And then we're gonna look over here. We're gonna grab portable flashlight's really nice. There we go. Make my life a lot easier. Yes, I believe I'm sick. And bad. This one was fun. Oh, there's the possessed can. Okay, I'm gonna try to get through this level quickly so that we get away from the possessed can. Luckily, the can gets cleaned up pretty early. But it's right here under the ground. There it is. Oh. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, sorry, I'm back. I was just looking at all the stuff to get through this quickly. There we are. There we are. Yes, if there is private conversation that needs to happen, please take that to the Discord. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, have a lot of fun. Nice one. Alright, what time is it? Okay. Let's see. We got the pressure washer. I did turn the game sound back on. What's ITR stand for? Yeah, like I said again, if you want to have these conversations, there's a Discord. There's also direct conversation you can do through Twitch. Thank you. But it is a bit rude to have private conversations in a Discord, in a stream. as it's like going to a comedy show and talking in the front row. I mean, in general, it just creates a bad atmosphere in the Twitch because people feel uncomfortable to talk their own conversations. Yep, and that's why I'm moving the vases this time. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye. Decided I'm not smashing these this time. Thank you. There we go. Vases are pretty. I felt bad last time for just destroying them. This time I'm going to try to do a lot less destroying. Yes. Well, it's because they're so easy to destroy in this space. You don't even think about it. You bump up against them too hard and bam, they're gone. That's what I'm doing now. Make the least amount of damage. Unhappy. Yeah, I wouldn't switch to the sponge either. And the sponge would prevent the breakage of things. Yeah, I didn't realize the power washer was going to do so much damage. But it did. And it does. This is a different level. This is the spa. And I unlocked the power washer. Aren't they? Everything about this game is done so nicely. And the way the blood is cleaned up. Same for the hydrate. Oh yeah. God, man, see, I love watching people power wash things, but I have a bad feeling I would just break things with mine if I were to ever get one. And this one doesn't look too bad. I do have a steam cleaner that I've yet to figure out how it's supposed to work. I shouldn't have bought a steam cleaner. Bye, Red Faye. Being good. Yeah, I know some of them, like, I mean, I think my dad had one that used, like, sand or whatever. Please keep conversation to English so that it can be moderated and read. Thank you. Morning, Lucy. Steam does hurt. Is there instructions on the steam cleaner? I mean, kind of. But I feel like also, you know, I'm worried that it's high pressured hot steam, right? So I'm just like, am I? And so I think I put water in it once. I might still have the water in it that I put in it when I first got it. I'm just probably gonna toss it out. I have a carpet cleaner as well. Let's use the carpet cleaner. Oof. We're fine. Why? Are you okay, Stellar? Da, 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 da. How was it not your fault? Whose fault was it? I think that's all I would do, though, is I just break things all the time. Oh, it's alright. I enjoy doing it. Generally, this is my favorite thing in the entire world to do. I love streaming. And I will never give it up for the entire world. You can't make me. Even if you wanted to. Which I don't know why you'd want to. So rude. Trying to get me to stop streaming. Crazy work. No need to worry. But I appreciate it. Oh, it was your father's fault. You can't use valid. Somebody should have shown you how to use it properly. Come be as swift as the coursing river. Be a man. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. It is. We're good. We have other mods here as well. We got gibbets and stuff. Don't you worry. We have a lot of mods. I think I modded Full Metal Brookie, didn't I? Full Metal Brook. I know I tried to do it by typing their name. Do you have any suggestions for today? Yeah. First off, it's your first exam. You'll be fine. You'll have other exams to make up for it. Just do your best. Use this as a good place to gauge. If you're in Europe, it'll be nice. Because your exams actually care about you knowing things. In the States, we're more about having perfect grades and... So annoying. You're fine, Katamia. Go focus on the grades. You got this. It's fine. I'll be alright for a bit. There we go. Carmia is a smart science lady. Carmia, the smartest science lady. Well, we're restarting the mission. Jib is to see your Carmia, don't you dare. I broke a vase. I ruined my challenge. Gotta go again. I got too excited. I got too excited. Well, because I ran past it, and I bumped into it while I was running past it. No. I put it out here in the hallway, and so when I was running past, I accidentally bumped it. So I need to make sure I put this somewhere that I'm not going to run past it too easily. You know what? We'll put them here. Oh, that's fine. It's not like it changes anything. There we go. I think I tried to wash these last time with the power washer. There we go. Nice. Oh, I definitely will, don't you worry. I've learned this time. This is risky. Oh. Yes, Kanamiya is a very smart science lady. You're fine, you're fine. You could sleep all day. I'll be okay. Trust me, I will be fine if you miss a stream or two. Get your sleep. Okay, here we go. Perfect. Oh, that's what I need to do. Where is it? This is more satisfying. I'm not going to use any of the powers anymore. I need to use the UV lamp. Where is it? There it is. See? No more using my vision. Except, I guess, when I'm trying to place furniture. Fine, I'll use a sponge. That's how I do it. If I had a power washer, I think I'd do the exact same thing. I just, like, keep spraying at it, even if I couldn't get the dirt, because it was too close to the ground. Isn't it crazy how blood reacts to black light like that? Somebody who knows science, tell me why. Oh, excuse me. Oh, that hurt. Oh, that really hurt. You might learn about it, I believe in you. Did you watch the Game Awards? I did not. I didn't even realize they were going on until afterwards. I went to bed. I was kind of disappointed, honestly, that I'd have asked so late, or else I would have watched it on stream. What was it? Let's see if we have anything here. Nope, nice and clean. Sweet. Perfect. Oh, don't you worry, I am. Wait, is there different game awards for horror? Oh yeah, Jennifer English did win that one for, she was from Clara Obscura, right? I mean, we know Half-Life 3 is never coming. If you ever, like, go to, like, listen to any of their interviews, they're like, no, the only way they would do a Half-Life 3 if somebody at Valve really, really wanted to do Half-Life 3. And, they said, like, nobody wants to do Half-Life 3 because there's so much expectation that nobody could make it right. You know? Just catch up, exactly. And I feel like that's the thing of, like, somebody would have to go to work at Valve with the sole purpose of making Half-Life 3. And even then, I feel like they'd probably convince you not to. They'd be like, you can just make this other game. I mean, heck, there was Half-Life Alyx. Probably the closest we're gonna get to Half-Life 3. Opium. See, my thing is, like, even though, what could they do in Half-Life 3? Because all the games, you know, always did something, like, above what was normal at the time. That kind of, like, accelerated game mechanics a little bit, and there's not really much you can add to that genre anymore. It would just be a normal game. Unless they just, like, really, really expanded on the story a lot. Now, do you know what my hopium is? My hopium is my copium. Bloodborne on PC. Bloodborne on PC. I know it's not gonna happen, but I will hold out forever. I will take that hopium every day. Because I'm not gonna buy a PlayStation just to play Bloodborne. I've thought about it, actually. I've thought about it a few times. I've always wanted to play it. I played it very briefly. And at the time I was so into Dark Souls that trying to play Bloodborne was the worst. Because the mechanics are, like, so different. Just like, because I was used to being, you know, a big, heavy dude. Or like a shieldy boy. That just doesn't exist in Bloodborne. In fact, they make fun of the idea of using a shield. Yeah, I might eventually get my one hope is to one day get a first generation PS3 so I can play all the Metal Gears. Bloodborne is a Souls-like. It's made by the same people who made Dark Souls, but it's done a lot faster and aggressive and actiony. It is more gothic inspired. You play a hunter. And it has all these ultra chores and stuff. It's very cool. Thank you for the head pats. Welcome to the menagerie. Again, why'd I say that? Hello, Pretty Lean, how are you doing? And hello there, Garlic Gar, how are you doing? This thing's blocking the way. Oh, this one wine bottle. Might be. No, don't break. Stay. Oh. Ooh. Can you imagine? Thank you, Jabbits. This time. Thank you for the follow, Anime Eater. How you doing? Welcome to the menagerie. If you stay in the sauna too long, you can get a heart attack. Isn't that crazy? Alright. I did. I would restart if I broke anything. Exactly. I'll take you all to a rage room. Unleash the voidlings into the rage room. Maximum range. Maximum room. There is a secret here. No, there is. Here it is. So it's 3, 2, 8, 7, 5, 8, 6, 2. And now it's there we go. DIY basement rage room, that'd be funny. Didn't open the secret. Did I break it? Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the... Well, hello, lovelies. Oh, you're catching me right at the end. I'm so very sorry. But hello, and welcome to the menagerie. How's everybody doing? Hope you're all having a lovely, lovely evening. Oh, there it is. How was stream? Am I doing this wrong? It's here somewhere. I know it is. But yeah, do we get a shout out for Peak already? 1, 2. There's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Hello, lovely people. I know it's here. So I did you, and I did you. Where is it? I'm such a good doggy. Maybe it is. No. We'll find it later. Well, it's going pretty well. I'm enjoying cleaning up all the blood. No, thank you for the follow. What were you doing? Assuming just ASMR would make the most sense. Welcome to the menagerie. Oh, Chad, are you intimidated, my little voidlings? Don't be intimidated, they're all lovely people. Especially Pink. The basement's too crowded. No, I can always take more. You know the basement is always expanding. Fine, I'll lock them up with you. Give me a second. So needy. So lovely, lovely viewers. You see, I've long been trying to hit partnership, and I figured out something that works the best. I made a lovely little basement. See, I'm LuckyJene, a writer, a gambler, and a soon-to-be villain. And if I can just find this little button here. And now you're trapped here with me. And you'll never be let out. So enjoy the basement. You happy? There. Give you a little shake. Now you have new friends. And there's your little swing. You did. Pig, do you speak Spanish? Because I've been wanting to pick up another language, and I think eventually I'll be picking up Spanish. Good. Well, then I will try to learn Spanish, and the next time you're here, I'll be able to talk even better for you. I thought so. But right now, I just have to keep my Spanish-speaking viewers around so that they can handle everything for me. Though, I live around enough Hispanic people that I should have definitely learned Spanish a while ago. Your one semester of Spanish, adorable. Oh no, you're gonna do Spanish. You're gonna do Japanese. What is GCSE? Oh, but if you need to raid and run, feel free to do so. The cart. I'm not counting this one. The glass is invisible, it doesn't count. I'm not starting over. Alright. You do have to be good. You're legally required. Yes, thank you. I can do all sorts of things with this voice. Whether nice and calming or anything else. You wish to chew? No, I will take away your star stickers. Thank you so much for the follow. I love the stickers. Oh, it's such a good idea. I now have ways to punish you, lovely voidlings. Not saying that I want to punish you, but you know. It's nice to have the option. Intoxicating personality. Why does that sound like a bad thing? Alright, sweetie. I got this one for you. You really want that badly. Oh. Alright, we'll start with the Southern, and then we'll hop over to the German if that's what you want. A little cleaning here, a little cleaning there. You know, maybe I'd enjoy cleaning a little bit more if Well, if it was this easy, never in my life has anything cleaned this well. And look, you just do a little cleaning here and it cleans up everything around it. Come on, God, patch cleaning for me, make it a little bit easier to do. Oh, is that a cowboy? What kind of emote is that? Oh, that's adorable. I need a cowboy emote. Well, give me a little while to learn Spanish. Give me like a month and I'll figure out something. You've gone with Bert. There's such an amazing Spanish community when it comes to streaming. I know it's an entire community that I'm missing out on. No, thank you for the head pats. That's why, I mean, some of the biggest streamers there are definitely like from Mexico or from South America. Oh, not the upset panda. Cowboy. I've always been a cowboy. Got that southern ancestry in me. Got family on either side of every major war. Don't fall for the cowboy hat rule. Don't you dare touch my cowboy hat. I know that rule. That's a lot of blood. Alright, give me a second. If the villain paperwork don't go through, that's what it is. As a backup, I'm gonna be a cowboy until the villain paperwork goes through. Yeah. Yeah, but then I'd have to have bilingual mods. Oh, I'm very glad it helped you. Alright, and now we have the other voice that we must go through. Hallo, mein liebe Leute. We are going to choose a German accent, but I'm glad I could help you, she protect. We are now in the German voice redeem, so we will stay like this for a little while. I don't know, we have to finish the German voice once, then we can come to an end. Hast du schon mal ein deutsches Kuchen backen lassen? Der in Deutschland gemacht wird. Ich habe keine deutsches Kuchen gemacht. Warum soll ich ein deutsches Kuchen machen? No, English is my first language. English is my first language. Well, technically. When I was a young child, I grew up in Germany. But it was only when I was like age 5. So when I went to America, I pretty much forgot all of my German. Well, it took me a long time for me to start remembering my German again. One day, though. Well, here's another one. Another German word, Liebe, means love. So if you were to call someone meine Liebe, means my love. It's one of my favorite ones, because it flows so nicely. And Liebe is spelled L-I-E-B-E. Liebe. Alright, lovelies. Unfortunately, I must go to work. So, we're gonna go raid out. Thank you so much for the raid, though I do apologize. I can't stick around longer. See, we have there's someone here. Is Hoshi being chill today?
No, there's no diamonds here. I'm trying to look for diamonds though.
Thank you so much for the follow. Always appreciated. Meine Liebe.
No.
Doing good.
Guys, I've gotta switch to key mine.
Hoshi's always chill. I think Hoshi will be perfect. Alright, buddy. Go say hi to Hoshi. Be nice, be good, behave yourselves. I'll see y'all later. Alright, lovelies? Here we go. We're gonna do raid 2. Thank you so much for the raid. Bye, lovelies. Thank you all for coming by. Mwah. Mwah.